As long as I can remember, being a little girl, my farthest memory goes back to the giant of fear. And it's just something that has always been there in my life. As long as I can remember, there was a deep, dark dread, always. From the moment I would wake up, it was just like I was drowning in a fear. And it could be irrational, it could be something that was very real, but very often it was just a fear of the day, a fear of being alive, a fear of meeting people, not measuring up, not being good enough, a fear of losing people. As a child, I would have to learn ways to cope through that. I grew up in a very loving Christian family who loved Jesus, and they would pray over me, and I always had that support. But there was always that dread. There was always that drowning. As I grew, I learned ways to cope. I would find ways to get through my days. I always had to be the best at everything I did. I always had to be in control. There was a lot of times I chose to be alone because that's when I could cope the best. That's when I could be myself. There was always those people in my life who came alongside me, and I rarely recognized it at the time that when I was growing up, that was the Lord's provision in my life, that these people came along and they prayed for me and they were there at the right moments. And I remember as I got older, just really crying out to the Lord and diving into His Word and hitting a breaking point of going, I'm going to believe every bit of this, or I'm going to believe none of it. It was a time for me that I needed Him most. And I dive into the story of David and his giants. And I say giants because he didn't have just one 9-foot giant in his life. That happened to be one of the first ones he had. And yet, as I went through my life, I loved the story of the underdog in the Bible. But the truth is this, God's stories don't have an underdog. As much as we love the underdog story, the God of the universe, the Almighty, is never an underdog. The ways that I used to cope is I wished I could have picked up my 5 stones and ran headlong at the giant, and pulled myself up by my bootstraps and just did this on my own. But the truth is, in that story, David's not the underdog. David's not even the main character of that story. God is the giant slayer. And something I love so much, and that as I walk closer with the Lord throughout my story, is that as I dove into Scripture, I saw time and time again, especially in the Psalms, where David cried out to the Lord in his anguish and in his own fear, in his own trepidation. And he cried out to Him in the muck, in the mire, and he came to realize that You are my rock, You are my salvation, You are my stronghold. You are the slayer of giants in my life. The more I walk with the Lord in that, the more He gives me a new peace of mind. He gives me a song in my heart when I wake up, a song of praise, not a thought of dread. And I look forward to those moments of waking up in His presence, knowing that He has me. I can look back at giants that I faced in the past, giant fears that I had, and they look so small. And they were things that I never thought that I would be able to get past. And because of those times, He has trained me. He has prepared me for what I'm doing now. He's prepared me for things that are going to be coming ahead. And yes, I know that there are going to be bigger giants in my life. There are going to be times that the fear creeps in. But now I have a track record with the Lord, knowing that He is going to guide my feet and put me on the solid rock. John 16 says, in this world you will have trouble, But take heart, I've overcome the world. And that's what I love so much. He is our overcomer. He is my strength. He is my stronghold. He is the wings that I go under when I need protection. And so I look forward to my times with him and know that it's not just a time of devotion in the morning. It's every day, all day, that I get to lean on him to be my protection and my strength.